Welcome to the First Customers Podcast. Today we have Stewart Townsend, CMO of Podcast Hawk, a company advised by Pat Flynn and Jordan Harbinger that helps guests automate getting booked on podcasts. Stewart, welcome to the show.
Hey, I was going to say morning, afternoon, and evening. Let's cover all the bases. Great to meet again, Paris.
Where are you recording from?
I'm in sunny, well, it's not sunny because it's early evening in Lancashire in England. So big city-wise, 100 miles north of Manchester.
All right. And what time is it there?
It's around about 9:45, 9:45.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you making time for us today.
Hey, no, it's a pleasure.
All right, let's kick it off and jump right in and talk to us about how Podcast Hawk got their very first customers.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting story because it was quite a painful experience in terms of, what it's like. You build a product and you go to market and you think everybody's going to come and it's tumbleweed. So essentially our first customers came through our networks. So myself and Ray, our co-founders, and we literally went out to our networks and knew there was a challenge because we built it to solve our own pain point. And went out we're in the Dynamite Circle. It's like a private mastermind group that we're in. And we went out to our LinkedIn network and we went out to a couple of podcasting communities that we know. And then it started to really sort of come through then. So within the first sort of couple of months, we had 50 plus customers using the platform, giving us feedback. And we continued that for a reasonable period of time. But those sort of first 4 weeks after launch was, a little bit nerve wracking. You've built this product, you've tested it, everybody said they want it. And it was quite a challenge. But the network connection was the main aspect for us first to get those customers.
Okay. And the mastermind group, did you say that was involved with podcasting or?
So it's actually the Tropical MBA podcast, Dan and Andrew. They have a group called the Dynamite Circle. So it's a paid group. You meet up every year and you have juntos. So we know a lot of people in there that are either got businesses they want to promote as a guest and wanted to get on podcasts and have been talking about this pain of actually doing that. So we reached out to them first and said, put your money where your mouth is. You've said that you want this product and we built it now. So come on. And they were very vocal customers, really good customers.
That's interesting. That's very similar to episode 1 of this podcast where Chase Bowers was in a mastermind group and basically built the tool to solve his own problem. And then other people in the group said, hey, I'd pay for that if you made it a customer facing product. And it just took off from there. That seems like a really, really good method.
Yeah, it's the same with our concept. We'd come at that. We wanted to get on podcasts to promote our brands or our businesses or whatever we were doing. And the same people in the mastermind group were saying that. It's like, how do we get new marketing channels? We'd like to do podcasts, but we can dress this up a little bit, but we're too lazy to be hosts. It's too much like hard work because it's not simple. But being a guest is a lot easier because you can turn up and then you can go away and you can get all the content. But of course, nobody wanted to build the product. They just thought, we'll keep on doing what we're doing. So it was to sort of scratch our own itch, but also some of those people that were looking for new marketing channels as well.
Okay. So give us a little view into how it works. You sign up for your service and then somehow you get guest requests.
Simple SaaS product in terms of what it takes away the pain of is literally spending a Sunday afternoon going on Google or going to a product like Listen Notes or those other sort of products out there and finding podcasts you want to be on and then actually finding out, well, they've not broadcast a show for 3 years. I've just spent all this time building this list and sound really good, but they're not live. All right, okay, so I'll start again. So our product allows you to search through 2.5 million podcasts, find the ones that are actually live now, find the ones that have relevancy to you in terms of the audience, and then we provide you with their social handles and contact details to reach out to them. And then on top of that, we've built an outreach feature so that rather than just sending blanket emails, you can send custom emails that are customized. You can actually listen to the podcast and if you're interested, want to be on it and actually be vocal about it and insert some details in there. And then those emails are automated. Literally, you can send them out and they go. And if you get a reply, they stop. And if you don't get a reply after X amount of emails, they stop as well. So that's the automation piece. It saves hours upon hours. Anybody that's ever done this as wanting to be a guest will know it solves that pain point.
So is email the only channel that is?
Well, there you go. I lost you for a second there.
Okay. Is email the only channel that's automated related to outreach?
It is at the moment, yeah. So we've got a feature on the roadmap for the ability to choose the channel you want to go through. So maybe that actually you want to warm up and go through social channels first. So Twitter, LinkedIn, etc., that sort of thing, and then use emails as a backup aspect because the host is more vocal on their social channels than they are on their email. So we're building that functionality into the roadmap over this quarter.
Okay, let's pause right here because for some reason the video stopped and started multiple times there. So let me just. Okay, we had a few technical issues on my end, so let's just recap that question. You mentioned automating email outreach to get booked on podcasts. Tell me about any other potential ways that you guys automate outreach.
Yeah, so we've got a feature on the roadmap that's coming through that we have the social handles. We go in, gather that data, and we manually check this data as well, whether it's email or social handles. So having a feature which allows you as a guest to reach out initially and send a message via social, whether it's Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook. A lot of hosts have a good Facebook page and go down that route before actually sending an email. So it may be as part of a sort of an outreach, you actually make the host aware that you exist and put some messages out about some of the podcasts and what you've done before you then start sending an email. So yeah, that is definitely on the roadmap. And ironically enough, it's something that we haven't thought about, and a customer said would be really cool. I was like, yeah, sounds a great idea. Why didn't we think of it?
Right. Talk more about how you got that customer feedback.
Yeah, so when we were sort of launching the product and building a lot of the features set out and getting the data already, I personally onboarded every customer. So 50 plus, any call from 15 minutes to an hour. And we've got customers that write books in the middle of the forest in Canada somewhere that are not very technically savvy, and those that write AI programs. So it was a very varied audience in terms of what they were looking to do, but also from their skill set as well. So when you're doing a search, some people didn't understand how to build a search term or what they were looking for from that. And that's what really came out of those 15 minutes to an hour type sessions with customers, walking them through, understanding what they wanted to do, what their pain point was, and then getting the feedback of things that we took for granted, didn't make sense to them, but also features that we'd not thought about before that actually, just gold dust. Saved us so much time in sort of some of the things that we built into the platform. I'd say to anybody that's looking at those first customers, talk to them as much as possible, and just understand what they're doing and watch what they're doing as well, because that's the best thing ever from a UI UX aspect.
So after the Mastermind customers got onboarded, what was that bridge between those first few and getting up to those first 50? What kind of tactics did you guys use?
So a lot of that was through referrals. So my background is from channels, so referrals, resellers, that sort of concept. So I pushed that quite heavily. So we built into the platform very quickly an affiliate system. So if you brought a new customer on board, you could get paid against that customer. So a lot of it came through word of mouth through, hey, I'm using Podcast Talk, send a tweet out, I've gotten some shows, but also actually going on shows like this and talking to hosts, and then the hosts became customers. Not so much, actually it was a promotion of the product on the podcast, because that's the idea of it. But actually the hosts were saying, well, I want to grow my show, and I've seen the Pat Flynn effect, and yeah, I'll come on. So we'd get off the show and then we'd do a demo. So it was a multitude of that, and that's part of where we're growing at the moment. Past those first customers is on podcasts and talking to hosts and agencies around that sort of side of things, and not, we're not focusing down on sort of niches as such. It's just really wide. We've got SaaS founders, book authors, podcast hosts, people running Kickstarter campaigns. It's a multitude.
Okay, because it doesn't really matter what type of podcast it is. You just have it set up to be a automated outreach system for just podcasts in general.
Yeah, well, again, so I love cars. I don't think I've got a little car in the back there. I love cars, so I've been reaching out to go on podcasts about cars because I love cars. And but I'm using Podcast Hawk to do that. Whereas before, trying to reach out to those shows and looking at hundreds of them and try to work out if they're live or not, especially something like a car show that can be very either seasonal or just go for so many shows and then they realize it's so hard. But yeah, people have used our product not just for going on shows. You've used it also to research sales leads. So let's go and find somebody that's been on the show, listen to what they've said about what they've done, reach out to the host to get some notes, find out that person. So they've used it from a sort of warming up a cold lead with some reference points or that sort of side, or some people have used it to build consultancy services. So yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I looked at the website a little bit and started to see that, okay, I could see using this service. I was a little confused on how the pricing broke down. I saw it was like the lowest plan was $49 a month, I think.
Yeah.
And what does that get you?
So it gets you access to the platform, all the searches, everything. The restriction is on every pricing plan is how many contact details you can get. So think of it as like a Zoom info. You can go and find everything you want and look at millions of shows, but if you want to reach out to them, you get so many credits per month to get those contact details. So, it starts at, I think, like 25 credits up to 100 credits, and then you can buy more credits. So that's what you're paying. You're paying for access to the platform, but the limitation is the number of host details you can get.
Okay. And then is it the higher plans that allow automation, like automated outreach?
Yeah, so Starter doesn't have that in there. And again, customer feedback was a little bit more complex to set up because you have to authenticate against your email. You have to spend some more time building the templates and sort of thinking about it. Whereas the Starter plan, people would come into that and drop off because they'd start trying to use the campaign tool where they didn't actually need it. So we've put that in like the middle tier plans from that side. And it's not from a cost aspect. It's more just people are coming in. We saw churn because of the barrier being there of that sort of thing, where somebody's paying $49 a month, just wants to reach out to some shows. They don't need to automate that. They're not going to do a high volume. It's more about, I can research them, I can get the details, I can test it out a little bit. And then when I'm ready, I'll move to this full automation because I realize the time it's going to save me.
And how many shows can you reach out to for the $49 a month?
So that's 25 credits. That's 25 show contact details you get of a show, and that's all the social details or email, etc. It's all the sort of contacts details on there. And
the value you're saying is these are shows that have been vetted, so it's kind of a curated list of quality contacts that are actually actively producing shows.
Yeah, so what we've done is we've collected all the data over the last 18 months from various sources, but then we have humans like me and other people going through and verifying that. So as a user does a search and puts it into our campaign aspect, we know that that's something that's interesting, and same whether it's a search or a campaign, and it goes into a back-end feature where before that's sent out, we verify it and have a human check of, is this right? Is it wrong? Is it validated? So we're cleansing our data based on customer requirements. There's no point in cleansing data of shows that have not broadcast for 3 years, unless you're going to use that for a different model. So we're always looking at the sort of latest and greatest.
Okay. And do you have any kind of numbers on the book rate? Like how often? Like 25 lead just sounds, I don't know. It sounds kind of like a risky thing because it's like, is that enough based on how many bookings actually happen from just contacting 25 shows?
So 25 is not probably a number to base it against, but if you look at 100 shows or 100 contacts, on average between me and Ray, when we're doing this, we're getting on 20 to 30 shows out of 100 outreaches. But that's highly, 20 to 30%. But again, it's because we're highly targeting the shows we want to be on and spending time to do that and go, well, actually, the tool allows the customization aspect of it. And the research is not just, I've got 25 people's names, I'm going to send this single email that says, like we have seen, so, hi, I'd like to be on your show. It's like, well, great. Tell me something about you and that. So we get a high percentage rate, but that's not to say that everyone's going to get. Some people get more because they've got a really good story, and they can sort of put that into a clear message really well. And like Paris, the more shows you've been on, the more chance you've got getting booked as a guest or as a host because you're a known, aren't you? Whereas those starting out, we tell people, don't go for Joe Rogan. Don't go up there. Start on smaller shows. Like, let's say, pardon?
Do people go for Joe Rogan using podcast hype?
Yeah, they do.
Anybody gotten booked yet?
No. And to be fair, they'll reach out to Jordan and Pat Flynn as well, and we see the sort of data. Yeah. But again, I don't know the context of those people. We can't see that, but they do reach out. But what we say to those that are coming to this new is, you may have the great story, you may be the CEO of Vodafone and such, but you're an unknown. So you need to start in a place that fits where you are in your profile and that sort of thing. If you're the CEO of Vodafone, you're not going to go. You've got to go in a show that's relevant as well. So there's some tactics around it, and we help articulate that and sort of guide people through that process as well. But it's a good percentage rate from actual bookings. Okay.
Can you speak to some of those tactics that you guide people on?
Yeah. There's a couple of ebooks and lots of content, but essentially it's about that whole search capability. It's about numbing it down in terms of what shows you want to be on, why you want to be on, but what value you bring. So if you're looking to use podcasts as a way of sort of getting some awareness out there or getting your first customers as well from that and sort of going out there, then target those shows that have more than 15 episodes but less than 50. The broadcasting they've got a new show coming out regular every couple of weeks or so, and they've got a quorum going on there. Then go and look at their social profile and their web metrics. So this is data that we are bringing into the platform as well. So it's about showing, well, actually, you may want to go on a show that the host has just started, 15 episodes in, the build and momentum around that. But you may think, oh, actually, I'd like to be on some show, somebody's show that's done 50 episodes. Well, that host that's got 15 shows already may have a really great social profile, a very highly targeted audience with a high domain authority backlink that they can send you that is of more value to you. But they're just not a known person in the podcasting hosting sector yet. So it's about, don't just look at the Joe Rogan, 5,000 reviews, et cetera. Look at what your goals are and then use the tool to identify the shows you want to be on that will give you the most reach. And we talk about podcasting as a guest from lead generation and a marketing aspect. It's about going and sharing your knowledge and truth and sort of what you know, but do that in a way that you can get some with a host that's going to give you good value as well. So you can share both your social networks, you can share both the reach, you can bring different audiences in there and get some more traffic back to you and a really high domain authority link back to you as well. That's the crux of it. That's what we talk about.
Yeah, that's good. So considering their audience, their network outside of just the current state of their podcast, because there might be a whole lot more going, like the tip of the iceberg,
Yeah, I was talking to an agency a couple of weeks ago, and again, what we help identify is like trending podcasts that are coming through. and there was one that was identified that had some chefs on there that were well known in the chefing sector and food industry, but not in podcasting. And we spotted it, and literally we got some people on there, and it did really well, because once it gained traction, people were like, oh, XYZ's on there. It's like, oh, I've got to listen to that, and the audience grew quickly. But you were on episode 6 with that traffic then coming through, and you've got evergreen content coming back to you. It's a great strategy. You don't get that with a lot of other sort of marketing type sectors. So it's those sort of things where, don't just look at where that person is now and how many shows and how many reviews they've got. There's more to it than that. Look at it as part of your marketing funnel.
Yeah, that's good. So you've talked about your first customers and a couple different types of customers that you go after, that you've had. What would you say is your best customer, your ideal kind of customer profile for this service?
As of everybody, but as of about 2 weeks' time, is podcast booking agencies, because they'll allow us to go to more users quicker and faster through that side. If we're looking at sort of B2C, business to consumer, the perfect podcast guest is somebody that's already got a really great story, and typically sits in somewhere like a book author or a SaaS founder or a mastermind, because they come and use the platform, but they know everybody else in that sector as well. They know all the other people to go and tell, and they can always promote it. And the great vocal voices for us literally is, that's how we expanded. So that individual coming in, normally we'll get an individual coming in and they'll bring another 5 customers to us, because they've told the friends down the pub, but by promoting what they did, it's like in the masterminds I'm on, and said, well, I'm on X amount of podcasts this week. How do you do that? It's like, well, yeah, because I'm using my own software. So they're the customers that can bring us more customers, because of the networks they sit in, are the best, because it just means it's less for us to do from a marketing aspect, and the cost of acquisition is lower as well, obviously.
That's good. That seems wise to consider for any type of business. It seems like that's why a lot of SaaS companies kind of evolve towards having some kind of agency pricing or some kind of tier like that, to where you want to make it easy for people to bring on even more customers, or referral programs and that kind of thing. Yeah,
it's ingrained in me. I've been working in the channel for 20 years. I'm not making myself older. I've worked in the channel for like 20 years, so it's like I can't get away from that way of thinking.
Now, when you say work in the channel, what do you mean?
So my background is I've worked in corporates and startups, help building them routes to market through indirect sales. So in normal terms, that means through resellers, distributors, referral partners, that sort of thing. So third parties selling your product and making money from it.
Okay, so affiliate marketing and related things there. Okay. I've never heard it referred to. I guess you were just saying that this channel, this type of, this little niche in the industry.
I think think of how Microsoft sells. So Microsoft sells 98% of their products through channel partners, resellers. You don't really sort of engage with Microsoft. You'll engage with a Softcat or somebody else, and a lot of times you won't see that, but you'll be buying those products through that. And same with a lot of other SaaS companies do that as well. So it gives geographic reach, it gives localization, it gives boots on the ground, but it reduces cost of acquisition as well, because literally, like I was just saying about Podcast Talk, I get one customer and they bring me 5. That's the same with a reseller. I'll be managing a reseller and they'll have 10 salespeople. So suddenly I've got 10 salespeople on my sales team, but I'm not paying 10 salespeople. So that's a sort of channel type model.
Okay. All right. Let's back up a little bit, zoom out and talk about what you did before Podcast Talk personally. Where'd you grow up?
So I'm from sunny Manchester in England. A bit of a whirlwind journey to get into IT, but literally, I became a mature, I don't know what the term is in the US, but a mature student. I went to university in my late 20s so I could get a job in IT. So I didn't start in IT until I was 30. And I worked for a company called Sun Microsystems, which, depending on how old you are, you may know or you may not. Oracle acquired them. I stayed at Oracle for about a year. And that was then decided. I've been running and sort of built out this accelerator startup program inside Sun and doing some investments. And we'd set up a cloud service and this, that, and the other. Decided to go and work for a startup. Yeah, that was painful. That hurt. That was like, wow. I thought I knew hard work, but whew, yeah, this was hard work. It was a 20-person company called DataSift, and I was like I was the only person there that wasn't a developer. Let's put it that way. So I learned again, that was again, how do you bring customers on board with a bootstrap? Oh, we were Series A, but we were still sort of bootstrapped in a sense. We were reselling Twitter's Firehose. We're one of 3 global licenses. But there was no sales team. We were building that out, building marketing function, and sort of getting things going. And again, similar lesson. It's like we thought we could sell the products in a certain way, and then the market deemed that actually no, it's not going to fly.
So wait, you said something that I didn't understand. You said you were reselling Twitter's Firehose. Yeah,
so a long time ago, Twitter was really good for developing on, but also they came to an agreement to sell. So basically, all of Twitter's data is called the Firehose. So if you access it through an API, you get 1%. We would be having access to 100%, and then we could resell. We could never resell 100% of it. Any one customer could only take 10%. There was us, Gnip, and Fujitsu Japan that were 3 global licensees for that service. Yeah.
What do they do with it?
What in terms of what we did to use it to sell to customers, or
like what would the customers buy it for? Were they just developing like apps that use Twitter data?
So like stock twits. One of the first financial customers taking that. Let's say governmental bodies under the guise of universities in America like to access that data. There's that good use case. Oh yeah, there's lots of conversations. Marketing organizations, again, doing social handle monitoring from that side. We were doing political analytics at the time as well, before it all sort of blew up. We did stuff like that. So essentially it was like sample modeling, but we had a C++ real-time sort of data analytics tool sat in front of it that was just awesome. And you could pull data out of it. And then we'd also do married up data. So we'd get demographic data and Foursquare location data, that sort of thing, and sort of map it together so you could build different profiles and pictures. So it was a marketeer's dream. I know, yeah. I had to think of his name though. I was like, Foursquare. Yeah. It was a marketing dream at the time.
Huh. Yeah, there was definitely that golden era. All these different services and all the privacy or whatever the concerns we've had over the past few years, the multiple layers and layers that's been added to different platforms to make marketing much more difficult on the targeting end of things.
Yeah, definitely was. And then sort of the last real job I had was I left to go and work for a company called Zendesk pre-IPO. There were about 250 people there. And I stayed for about 4 years, went through the IPO when we were about 1,500 people. So I built a $10 million business unit in there around channel and then left. And that's when I decided I want to do a startup. I want to do my own thing because I've been in these companies and it's really great and I know it's hard work. What can I do? And it took a couple of years to actually develop that into Podcast Talk and find a co-founder to work with because I knew that I couldn't do it on my own. I'd just procrastinate too much. So yeah, it was a couple of years of doing consulting and sort of revisiting the network and wanting to do something I really enjoyed and was passionate about and get into. And this was it because there's a mixture of sort of a data layer in there, a marketing mix, sales lead generation, whole sort of stuff that I think is really cool. And it meant also I could go and reach out and speak to people about cars and stuff and get on podcasts about cars. So. But yeah, boom.
A little self-serving. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let me cruise down here my list, making sure I'm covering all the things. What do you think the most effective tactics once you got to Podcast Talk and launching it? What's your total customers now first, if that's not too private?
Yeah, so we're just over 100 customers. We're growing day on day, weekly. So we've got that traction now. It was ourselves that are limited the customers because the platform it's never 100%, but it wasn't 100% that we were happy to release it fully to the wild.
And it is monthly, right? Like it's $49, or is it just one-off payment every time you want to get more contacts?
No, it's monthly recurring. It's a 30-day contract. So we've had customers that have been on the beta and sort of stayed with us for 18 months or so around that. And yeah, customers come in for either short bursts or long periods of time. Those that get it and just don't even they just leave the platform in automation. You don't have to do anything.
That makes sense. What do you think's caused the biggest spikes in growth since you've launched?
I think that the biggest spikes have come when we've done podcasts. We've done a blaze of podcasts because again, it's eat your own dog food. So Ray did just over 50 last year in the last 6 months of last year. I'm up to 10 at the moment this year. And I've got a target this year of being on 200. Ray's got a target of being on another 100. And again, not just about marketing and such, but about stuff that we like. Because I would love to do a car show podcast, but Paris, I am very lazy. I could not do what you do. Preparation, all that sort of. It is hard work. You know, it is hard work.
Not sure if I can do it yet. I'm just experimenting.
But it's worthwhile because it helps you build a wider network. You meet sort of, a load of people that can help build that network with you. But yeah, the biggest spikes have come from when we've done podcasts as a campaign. We've gone and reached out and got on multiple podcasts, and it gives you traction around that side. Ray's been on Pat Flynn. He's been on John Lee Dumas. So we've got some good spikes from that. And we have ongoing activities with other partners as well. So I've got an event in Manchester that I'm hosting with a couple hundred people in 3 or 4 months' time, speaking at a podcast event in London. So we've always got multiple marketing streams going on, segmented across customers. And then the biggest thing at the moment is just producing some content to do sales lead generation through podcasts is the best way of describing it for that. So we can actually reach out and help customers get their first customers. Think of it as a good channel to move really quickly on. Don't have to wait for SEO. Don't have to wait for blog posts to go live or whatever it is. You can leverage and use other people's hard-earned networks and give value back to their audience.
Exactly. You mentioned events. How often do you guys do events as part of your marketing strategy?
So we're going to do two this year. It wasn't part of the strategy. Yeah, me and so Sam Sethi is on Podland News with James. We've done some crazy things. So when the Facebook film came out multiple years ago, I can't remember the name of it now, but we hired a cinema in London on a whim and sold 300 tickets for people to go. So we had a conversation. Network, that movie? Yeah, Social Network. Yeah, okay. That was it. Yeah, so we sold 300 tickets, which, yeah, it's a stressful time. It's very expensive to hire a cinema in London, and we were banking that we were going to sell it. So we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago and decided, right, okay, we'll do it. So for those that aren't in sunny England, a lot of activities happen around London, but the podcasting industry in the UK is in Manchester, Sheffield, Liverpool, Leeds. They're in northern cities. So we're putting an event on in I think, June time. So we've got some key speakers flying in from the US for that. And then we're going to do another one outside London in September. So that's 2 events this year. In terms of speaking events, Ray's going to do a couple in the US. I'm doing these two plus another one in the UK. But actually, we're raising to concentrate more on the sort of podcasts and events because there's a bigger sort of activity of that in the US. But from a customer and getting customers and pushing a model out, I'm going to speak at marketing events because I'm talking about lead generation and marketing funnels and how to get customers. So there'll be more activities from that side. So I'm hoping to get to at least 2 or 3 of those as obviously not a keynote speaker, but just a workshop or something to get that message out there. So it's a big part of, I wouldn't say normally in a SaaS, it would be a big part of the funnel. But with us, we're in an educational market. We have to go and educate the market of something that's needed. So we need to get out there and go face to face, which we can do now, thankfully.
Yeah, definitely. So are you speaking on that specific topic of like podcasts as like sales lead generation channel?
Yeah. So again, when I say we experimented with customers last year from onboarding features, it was also about the messaging as well. So podcast guesting doesn't exist as a search term, or being a guest on a podcast does, but more of like, what do I do? How do I do it? Yeah, it's that sort of thing. Whereas actually what we're talking about is how do you get customers? How do you get your first customers? How do you generate that? So I'm talking about now as lead generation, marketing funnels, putting it in the mix, all the sort of search term keywords and that niceness. But what are the benefits around that? So that's what the couple of ebooks that I've written around that. And I've got another one that's halfway through a sales playbook of lead generation as a podcast guest. How to do that, what that means, what the benefits are, and also what you should do as a guest as well. You know, if you want to get the benefit from being on someone's show, you've got to be respectful of their network and actually get off your ass and do something. You can't just go on the show and think, oh, that's great, now they're going to do all the work. It's like, no, you have to go out to your network and promote it. And, you know, it's about giving and receiving. Find some more guests for them as well. You know, do some of that legwork because it's hard. Okay. So it's about, it's those, you know, what's the benefits? And it's a classic different use cases. So if you're running a Kickstarter, think of it as a book author, go and promote that through podcasts before it actually ends. If you're an enterprise sales guy, go and research your customers and see if they've been on podcasts, and then reach out, understand what they said on there and listen to it. So it's all these little activities you can do to bring it into a sales development type role or an enterprise sales or whatever it may be to leverage the power of podcasts. They're not going away. They're growing. They've been around for ages, and people don't get the sort of context and what you can learn from it.
Yeah, and I can speak to that a little bit just from doing this show and seeing the patterns of what people talk about when they're talking about getting their first customers. And kind of the meta trend that I'm seeing is it seems like the best salespeople or the best founders or the people who grow the most or the fastest spend time connecting with their target audience before launching the business or kind of in tandem with launching their business, to where they start getting that customer feedback before they even have any customers, because they're so connected to that network within their target audience. And they've defined that beforehand. And that when they have a business and they kind of test that idea or just ask for feedback on the idea of their business, you know, they're already kind of going through those early phases of honing their product or their service. And this seems like an extension of that, where you could start being a guest in things related to the niche you're wanting to build a company in, even. Or if you already got a startup, you can start connecting with your target customers' audience or figuring out what your target customers listen to. I think there's a tool called SparkToro.
Oh, yeah.
By a guy who used to be Rand Fishkin, I think.
Yeah,
Rand Fishkin, the founder of Moz.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think it does something like that, where it shows you your target audience's influencers or something like that.
Yeah, show the target audience and influencers in sort of PR and a segment of podcasts and things like that. And it gives that data and that metrics on it. And again, you're right. So, you know, some of our messaging to SaaS founders is you're building the company out, but you need to build you out as a brand because you're the founder or the co-founder, whatever it may be. And you can take that message out. But the beauty is that with podcasts, it's a highly targeted audience. Somebody isn't going to come and listen to your show that likes fly fishing. So they may like fly fishing, but they're not coming to listen to learn about fly fishing. So, if you're trying to sell, say Zendesk goes at Zendesk and you want to sell a customer service message and about customer service platforms, you would go on those podcasts that are focused around that core area or the subset of it, because you know that the audience want to learn and listen about customer service, customer success, how to do it, etc. So it gives you it's highly targeted. So you also know not just the audience, but the network of that person that hosts, because they're interested in it as well. And there's no other medium that gives you that targeted approach really quickly and that outreach really quickly that you can research and go after. You don't have to do any SEO. You don't have to wait for content to warm up or Google to index it. It's like, no, done. I'm out there. I've got evergreen content. I can take sound bites. I can push it out. I can leverage that really quickly. Yeah. And I can go back to it in 6 months. I can do it again. I can repurpose that content again. If something happens, I can take a soundbite out and drop it into a PR statement. Boom. I said that 6 months ago on a podcast. You're talking about it now.
Yeah, I really do think podcasting is like a cheat code for business, especially sales, lead gen, that kind of thing, building your network. Because the other angle of getting booked on podcasts is you're building that personal connection, at least somewhat, with the person who runs that podcast. Or, like in my case, being the host of this one, I get to meet all these different people that I have on the podcast. Some of them I've known before, some of them never met. Like I've never met you before, and now we're having this conversation. So I have someone else who's more connected in my network that didn't know you from anybody before.
No, exactly, and that's the thing. Now we're best friends, and we
polywork.
Yeah, through polywork. Yeah, best friends now. That's it. Yeah, but it is. It's that.
I mean, you guys, if you'll cover travel, I'll come to that event. And,
as long as it's not first class, you're okay. But it's that network, isn't it? It's that thing of it's like trying to explain it to a friend of mine the other day. And so it's a quick way of doing that 7 degrees of separation, 6 degrees of separation, whatever the number is of, I want to reach Pat Flynn. All right. Okay. How do you want to do that? Oh, well, I can go through this, and this. And it just gives you that capability really quickly, because we'll connect on LinkedIn, we'll have our network sharing, we'll share out the messaging and such. And guest blogging, posting, or those sort of mediums doesn't give you that. And also it doesn't give you that trust. It's a piece of content that you've wrote and published on somebody's site, but they can't hear your voice, they can't hear the tone, they can't hear the passion of what you're talking about. It's flat word. And it probably is. We're going to get the word in it. It's probably been written by ChatGPT anyway. So.
You put the AI buzzwords in there.
We'll get the IA buzzword in.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like blogging is going to get overrun, or already is.
Yeah,
overrun now by AI content. So yeah, it seems like guest blogging and all that. I guess there still may be some technical benefits if you're getting links and.
Yeah, it's one of those. You can do it in parallel, can't you? You can have multiple strategies with any sales funnel and marketing funnel. It's multiple strategies, and some are long term, some are short term. It's not going to go away, most definitely. It's just one of those of, like, if you want to get warmed up quickly, get on 10 podcasts. Suddenly you've got 10 reference points there of what you've said, 10 links, 10 potential audiences. And like when I talk about channel, I view it as that. It's like, so now this episode will get released, but you'll broadcast it to your network and I'll broadcast it to mine. And we've got the network effect. Yeah. It's like I've got hundreds of salespeople working for me now.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so I think we've covered a lot of different strategies and tactics that people can take away and use in their own businesses. And obviously, I guess the main one is, hey, try out Podcast Talk. I think I might have to sign up after this. You've pretty much convinced me that, nothing to lose, decent price point, and yeah, at least try it for a month and see if I get any bookings from it, and just go from there. But
yeah, it's just use it as a tool to try and get some bookings as a host to reference what you do and promote it out. And again, it is called the Pat Flynn effect because it's John Lee Dumas that christened that about 10 years ago, because that's how he built Entrepreneur on Fire, getting on a show a day by going by going on other people's shows. It's when Pat Flynn wasn't as big as he is now, and John wasn't either. It's been christened, so we just use that term because it's you've already got a reference, haven't you? You're a host. You've already got shows. You've already got material. The host knows you'll turn up. Yeah. You'll be able to be articulate. You can, talk a story, walk through, provide insights to the audience and that sort of thing. So it's like a pre-qualifier.
Yeah. As long as I can figure out how to get my mic to work properly.
You're going to have to take the cables down.
Yeah. I have to get some tape or something.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've used up the time that we booked here, so I want to respect your time, and I appreciate you taking time to record at night and go through all of this with everybody. And do you want to make one last pitch to, let's say, your ideal target customer? A bunch of podcast booking agencies are listening in. What would you tell them the pitch is?
Yeah, so basically, if you're an agency, we can save you lots of time and lots of money in terms of searching, automating those podcasts. And we have an agent's dashboard, so you can have multiple customers under the same login account. And essentially, I think the takeaway message is, if you're looking to get customers and you're a founder, a booker, whatever you are, start to think of podcasting as being a lead generation tool. Don't dismiss it. Sort of look at it. Podcast Hawk can definitely help with that, and we can provide materials, but just start to look at it as a way of generating leads into your funnel that you can do really quickly. I'd say that would be a key plug. Don't dismiss it. Let's make podcasting bigger.
Yep. Business cheat code. Thanks again, Stewart.
Hey, no problem. It's been a pleasure. It's been good.